We want to continue to provide leadership on this issue, to your point. We've traveled to every state in the country. We've had hundreds and hundreds of community meetings with students and teachers and parents. And while you can never obviously hear everyone's voice, I think we have a great sense of what has worked and what hasn't and how to improve this thing. And so we do want to continue to provide leadership. I will tell you, I'm very, very hopeful that working both the House and the Senate on a bipartisan basis, that we can all end up on the same page. We've had very productive meetings with the Big Eight, House and Senate leadership, both sides of the aisle, and we're going to continue to work very hard with them. They share our sense of urgency. They see the opportunity here. But I hear your request for us to continue to provide leadership, and I promise you we want to do that.
Governor Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. I want to first start out by thanking the Secretary. It was a year ago today, Secretary Duncan, that I had the opportunity to visit with you at the White House. And
you were in a tux, I remember.
That's correct. I'll try to put it on again tonight. But in all seriousness, you were gracious enough to sit down with us and our Education Commissioner, Eric Smith, give us the opportunity to talk about the importance of an exemption as it related to the additional funds for Florida, and you granted it. As a result of that, we were able to retain and not have to fire about 20,000 educators across Florida. So on their behalf, thank you. And on the students' behalf that they teach, thank you. The Race to the Top initiative, I want to compliment you on that, to reintroduce and re-energize the notion of competition, of flexibility, of accountability, of taking a measure from this administration and from you is something that Florida takes very seriously. Frankly, under my predecessor, Governor Bush, we were on that march already, but for you all to take the ball and advance it that much further down the field is a tremendous service to all of my colleagues in our respective states. And so thank you for that. And we've turned in our application. We look forward to your announcement next week, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. Rest assured that if it doesn't work out, we'll come back. But we have about 2.6 million students in our public school system in Florida. And because of the fact that we have this accountability and we have a measure of what's happening in the classroom, we reward our good teachers more, which only makes perfect sense to me. Since I have been governor, we've gone from 31st in the country. Mike, I'm going to brag on my state a little bit too. We've gone from 31st in the country under Education Week's ranking to 14th to number 10 in the country to this year number 8 in America. And I don't know if Vermont's number 1 either, Mike, but it's good to be number 8, I'll tell you. And, Florida, for so many years, we get an awful lot of people that come to our state from up north. And they say, well, gee whiz, if your schools are just as good as ours are up north, it'd be great and we'd stay down here. Well, they're better now. And it's because of things that you're promoting. And so in a bipartisan way, I am proud to work with your administration, grateful for what you all are doing. Don't apologize for it either. And it's the right thing to do. You're putting children first. We're trying to put people first. And the notion is that the people of this country want all of us to work together. Governors do it pretty darn well, frankly. And as long as we stay focused on that, America wins. And that's what it's all about. And education is the best way to get this economy back on track. So thank you.
I appreciate your leadership. I think it's the only way. I think it's the only way. We have to keep working together. We have this unique opportunity to break through. And I just can't think for all of you a better legacy than the transformation of your state's educational system. And that's what we're looking for here is this transformational change.
Governor Heinemann.
Mr. Secretary, I just want to thank you for being here today, but I'd like to start by acknowledging the great teachers, principals, and superintendents we have in our state and across America. Maybe more than most governors. I know this firsthand since my wife has been an elementary school principal and teacher for more than 30 years. And I constantly tell our citizens, go with me on a Saturday afternoon and Sunday evening to your local school and let's see who's there. I've seen educators there. I appreciate what you're doing in terms of accountability, the high standards, academic achievement. All those things are important. And as part of our P16 initiative, one of the goals we adopted was to eliminate academic achievement gaps. We had a big discussion about whether to close them or eliminate them. And we agreed we need to eliminate. And you've got to challenge the bottom 5% in terms of the status quo. But what I'd like to ask you today, and we had a brief conversation before the meeting started, in Nebraska, we've always been pretty pleased with our choices. Public schools, Catholic schools, Lutheran schools, a significant homeschooling contingent, and then a very liberal option enrollment. So when you talk about charter schools, that's never been something that's really caught on in our state. You mentioned, as we were talking about, innovative schools. So what I'd like to hear from you is, what do you mean when you say charter or innovative schools? What should we be looking for, whether they're called that or something else?
You know, I appreciate the thoughtfulness. It's something that we've had many internal discussions with people around the country. And let me be very, very clear. I said repeatedly, I'm not a fan of charter schools. I'm a fan of good charter schools. And some of the best charter schools in the country are literally eliminating achievement gaps, remarkable breakthroughs. We also have second and third rate charters, and I've challenged this charter community that we have third rate charters, they should be closed down. And so it's not just about more, it's about quality. And charters by no means have cornered the market on innovation. What we want is more great schools. So charters, neighborhood schools, magnet schools, gifted schools, whatever name they might come under, we want schools that are, to your point, eliminating achievement gaps and raising the bar for all children. Good charters are a piece of the answer, by no means the only answer. Bad charters are a piece of the problem. We just need more high-performing schools in our country. And what I just sort of think fundamentally is that often in this country, what's worked for wealthy folks is probably good enough for folks that don't have as much money. And the wealthy in this country have had for generations, multiple choices in terms of where to send their child to school. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 great choices. Poor families have often had one option, and often that choice has not been a good one. And so what if more families had great options or just great schools to send their children to? And if we can have 100,000 great schools in the country, I think we can all retire. We would have done our job, and the system will fix itself. But until we have every single school as a great school, what bothers me historically is I think so often we've created schools that were good enough for somebody else's children, but not good enough for our own children. And for me, and I think for many of us, this is really personal. I have a 6-year-old and 8-year-old at home, and when I visit schools every single week, I just, if the school is good enough for my own children, that's a good school. If it's not good enough for my own children, it's not a good school. And so we just need more good schools that are good enough that we would send our own children to. And if we get to that point through charters, through other things, and if we give folks who haven't had options good choices, I think we move the ball down the field a long way.
Governor Doyle.
I want to add my thanks as well. You've been amazingly attentive to Wisconsin and our needs, and I know that's true in states all across the country. I'd like to ask you this sort of process question on Race to the Top. First, congratulations. I mean, it's been noted in national press. You've gotten more educational change without spending a dime than anybody ever has done. And we're certainly an example of that. We've changed state laws. We've done, we have worked hard to have a really great comprehensive plan. We have 97% of our districts on board. We have really done some things. I ask this question on behalf of my fellow governors because I'm sure my grant will be approved. So I ask this on behalf of the others. But for those where you decide that they're not going to even make the first cut or ultimately not going to be in the first round, are we going to get some set of comments back or feedback that we really know what has to be shored up and what has to be done? I recognize that's a difficult thing, and I don't know if you've thought through whether to do it in some kind of private discussion, whether to do it in some kind of public. Again, I'm not worried about this, but I've heard some other governors that are thinking in those lines. But I really would be interested to know what your thoughts are about telling states, look, these are I mean, I understand that you're going to pick some, and that they'll be examples, and we can look. I mean, they can look at ours and so on. But it's beyond that. I think some real feedback on exactly what's needed. You'll get that change in state after state that will then want to meet it.
It has been amazing to watch this change, and again, it's you guys driving it. It's not us. Like I said, we haven't spent a dime yet, and it's your leadership and the courage and people really stepping forward and doing the right thing by children. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about this. For everyone who doesn't get in the first round, we will give every single state specific feedback. And so this, to me, and it's funny, people talk about this as a competition among states, and I honestly, it sounds a little strange. I don't see this as a competition among states. We want the whole country to get there, and that's why we want to come back round after round after round. If you don't get in the first round, try the second. You don't get in the second, try the third. We'd love to see this 4, 5, 6 years out and just keep growing it. What we're really looking for is, do you have the capacity to deliver? And again, I think we're going to get some great plans on paper and you guys have seen as much paper more than I have. And is there at the local level, is there the capacity to deliver dramatically better results for students? And sometimes